Vayechi, and he lived. 12th and last reading from the book of Genesis. Outline of Torah portion. Last days of Yaakkov, Genesis chapter 47, verse 27 to verse 31. After leaving Canaan during the famine, Yaakkov lived for 17 years in Egypt. In response to Pharaoh's question, Yosef said, "Few and unpleasant have been the years of my life." 20-odd years he worked hard for Laban, and he was mourning over the loss of his beloved son, Yosef, for 22 years. Torah says that his spirit revived only when he saw the chariots Yosef had sent to take him to Egypt. The last 17 years Yaakkov spent in Egypt. After reuniting with Yosef, the son whom he loved the most, and his family, had been the best years of his life. Finally, Yaakkov had the opportunity to make important decisions concerning inheritance, spell out instructions regarding his burial, and time to bless his descendants. Yaakkov knew that his time has come to be gathered to his forefathers. He got Yosef, his beloved son, and said to him, "If you truly love me, please put your hand under my thigh and pledge that, out of consideration for me, you will not bury me in Egypt." Genesis chapter 47, verse 29. Yaakkov got Yosef to swear to him that he will do as Yaakkov has asked. Then he bowed down at the head of his bed, which may have reminded Yosef of his second dream. Yaakkov blesses Ephraim and Manasseh. Genesis chapter 48, verse 1 to 22. A while later, Yosef was told that his father was ill. He went to see him with Manasseh and Ephraim. Yaakkov told Yosef, "El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, saying to me, I will make you fruitful and numerous. I will make of you a group of people, and I will give this land to your descendants to possess forever." Genesis chapter 48, verse 4. Yaakkov said to Yosef, his beloved son, "Your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, will be mine. For the purpose of inheritance, they are to be counted with their older brothers." Upon realizing that Joseph's sons are with him, he wanted them near to bless them. Yosef brought Ephraim in his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right hand. But Yaakkov placed his right hand on Ephraim's head and his left hand on the head of Manasseh. Yaakkov intentionally crossed his hand when giving the blessing. In his blessing he added, "May they remember who I am and what I stand for, and likewise my fathers Abraham and Isaac, who they were and what they stood for, and may they grow into teeming multitudes on the earth." He also added this blessing, "Israel will speak of you in their own blessings by saying, may God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh." Thus he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Yaakov spoke to Joseph about Rachel, his mother. Genesis chapter 48, verse 7. Yaakov's intention was to marry only Rachel. Now there are many brothers ahead of Joseph in the birth order, but Yaakov secures a double portion for Joseph's family by adopting Joseph's two sons and making them his legal heirs. In addition to all this, Yaakov said, "I am giving to you a Shechem." more than to your brothers. As Yaakkov prophesied in Genesis chapter 48, verse 20, on every Sabbath, sons are blessed with the blessing. May you be like Ephraim and Manasseh, and the daughters are blessed with the blessing. May you be like Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. Ephraim and Manasseh were raised in exile, in a foreign land, in a pagan culture. Yet they didn't blend into the pagan culture in which they lived. They kept faith and practice and remained faithful to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakkov. In Genesis chapter 48, verse 15 and 16, Yaakkov is transferring the blessings of Abrahamic covenant to the sons. When we pray according to Genesis chapter 48, verse 20, we are praying for the inclusion of our sons in the Abrahamic legacy of covenant and blessing. Parents need to understand the importance of blessing the children, speaking positive words of encouragement over their lives, which could change the course of their lives in the right direction. Yaakov's last words to Reuben, Shimon, and Levi, and Yehuda. Genesis chapter 49, verse 1 to verse 28. Yaakov called his sons and said, gather yourselves together, and I will tell you what will happen to you in the Arit Hayamim. Genesis chapter 49, verse 1. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, the first fruits of my manhood. Though superior in vigor and power, you are unstable as water. So your superiority will end. Because you climbed into your father's bed and defiled it. He climbed onto my concubine's couch. Genesis chapter 49, verse 3 and 4. Reuben was Yaakov's firstborn son. He was to be the main inheritor. He got disqualified from that position on the basis that he lacked self-control. Yaakkov was referring to the incident where Reuben slept with Bilhah, Yaakov's concubine. Yaakkov said, you are unstable as water. In 1 Chronicles chapter 5 verse 1 we read that Reuben is not enrolled in the genealogy according to the birthright. Deuteronomy chapter 21 verse 15 to 17 forbids a father from giving the birthright to any son other than the firstborn. But evidence had been found that a father passed over the firstborn son when giving out the inheritance. Tribe of Reuben was not preeminent in Israel. No leaders came from the tribe of Reuben. Outcome of the tribe of Reuben cautions us of the danger of sin. Failing to stand firm against the desires of the flesh cause loss of future opportunities as well as spiritual potential. Shimon and Levi. Shimon and Levi are brothers, related by weapons of violence. Genesis chapter 49 verse 5. Next in line was Shimon, but Yaakkov addresses Shimon and Levi simultaneously. He referred to the incident at Shechem. Yaakkov was ashamed of what happened at Shechem and wanted to disassociate himself from their guilt. Yaakkov said, I will divide them in Yaakkov and scatter them in Israel. Genesis chapter 49 verse 7. Because of their anger and wrath, they forfeited their blessing. Tribe of Shimon lost its importance. Their numbers fell dramatically during Exodus. Their tribal allotment was absorbed into the tribe of Judah early after settlement. Tribe of Levi lost right to its own tribal territory, but they secured the prestige of the priesthood and temple service. Outcome of tribes of Shimon and Levi warns us of the danger of anger and rage. Apostle Paul speaks of anger as deeds of flesh. And we are reminded in James chapter 1 verse 20 that the anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of God. Yehuda, your brothers will acknowledge you. Your hand will be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons will bow down before you. Genesis chapter 49 verse 8. Fourth son in line was Yehuda. He gets lavished with praise. Yaakkov said he would rule over his brothers, and scepter would not depart from him. Fulfillment of the prophecy came when David, a shepherd, from the tribe of Yehuda, became king over the tribes of Israel. One of the titles of the Messiah is derived from this blessing, the lion that is from the tribe of Judah. Genesis chapter 49 verse 9. Though Yehuda prevailed over his brothers, and from him came a leader, yet the birthright belonged to Yosef. 1 Chronicles chapter 5 verse 2. Yaakov's last words to Zebulun, Issachar, Dan, and Gad. Zebulun will live at the seashore, with ships anchoring along his coast and his border at Sidon. Genesis chapter 49 verse 13. Yaakkov blessed his fourth son Yehuda with the blessing of kingship, and prophesied over the rest of the sons of their future in the promised land. He prophesied to Zebulun that his descendants will be in the sea trade and prosper by the seashore. Their trade may have stretched from the Sea of Galilee to the Mediterranean. Prophet Isaiah referred to the territory of Zebulun and of Naphtali as the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. Isaiah chapter 9 verse 2 says, "The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined." Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6 says, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." Matthew refers to the work of Yeshua HaMashiach in this territory. In Matthew chapter 4 verse 13 and 14 we read, "And leaving Nazareth, he came and settled in Capernaum, which is by the sea, in the region of Zebulun and Naphtali." This was to fulfill what was spoken through Isaiah the prophet. Issachar is a strong donkey lying down in sheep's sheds. On seeing how good is settled life and how pleasant the country, he will bend his back to the burden and submit to forced labor. Genesis chapter 49 verses 14 and 15. Prophecy for Issachar compares the tribe to a donkey, a beast of burden. Tribe of Issachar received the best agricultural land of Israel, the beautiful and fertile Jezreel Valley. The prophecy may be referring to the tribe's agricultural work in the Jezreel Valley. Dan will judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a viper on the road, a horned snake in the path that bites the horse's heels, so its rider falls off backward. The name Dan means judgment. First part of the prophecy is that Dan would be a judge in Israel, which was fulfilled through Samson the Nazarite, warrior and judge. Second part, Genesis chapter 49:17, may refer to the deception of idolatry the tribe of Dan was involved with. They abandoned their allotted territory and went north, where they became an institutionalized center for idol worship. Gad, A troop will troop on him, but he will troop on their heel. Genesis chapter 49, verse 19. The word Gad means troop. 4 of 6 Hebrew words in this blessing are variant forms of Gad's name, which means that though Gad may be attacked, his attackers will retreat from him. Tribe of Gad settled east of Jordan River and acted as a border guard against Moab, Ammon, and Arameah. As Yaakkov prophesied, Gad acquired a warrior reputation and were victorious over his enemies. Yaakov's last words to Asher, Naphtali, Yosef, and Benjamin. Genesis chapter 49, verse 1 to verse 28. As for Asher, his food shall be rich, and he will yield royal dainties. Genesis chapter 49, verse 20. Asher means happiness. The blessing he received implies that he will bring success and happiness through agriculture and royal dainties. Sign of the tribe of Asher is a precious jewel. Their tribal territory was situated by the sea. They imported treasures to Israel. The tribe received a fertile plot of land. They grew olive trees. Olive production gave immense wealth for their tribe. Naphtali is a doe let loose. He gives beautiful words. Genesis chapter 49, verse 21. In the fictitious testaments of the 12 patriarchs, Naphtali tells his sons, "Since I was light on my feet, like a deer, my father Yaakkov appointed me for all missions and messages, and as a deer he blessed me." Territory of Naphtali included the northern shore of the Sea of Galilee. Yeshua HaMashiach taught in this region. Most of the words recorded in the Gospels were spoken in the territory of Naphtali. Yosef is a fruitful plant by a spring, with branches climbing over the wall. Genesis chapter 49, verse 22. Yosef received a blessing from his father that cannot be compared to any other blessing his brothers received from Yaakkov. He was compared to a fruitful plant by a spring, with branches climbing over the wall. As a fulfillment of the blessing, Ephraim formed a separate kingdom from Yehudah. Majority of tribes joined Ephraim. Yaakkov depicts Yosef as an archer, attacked fiercely, shooting at him and pressing him hard, but Yosef returning arrows in confidence. Verse 24, that mighty one of Yaakkov, strengthening Yosef's arms and steadying his bow. This may be an indication as military expertise and political power. Yosef received from his father every blessing from heaven, blessing from the deep, blessing from the birth and to the end of time. Yaakkov said, "May all these blessings be on the head of Yosef and on the crown of the head of the one distinguished among his brothers." These great blessings of Yosef fell upon Ephraim and Manasseh. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey, in the evening still dividing the spoil. Genesis chapter 49, verse 27. Yaakov's blessing over the tribe of Benjamin indicates success. The tribe was known for its fierceness in battle. Judge Ehud, prophet Jeremiah, and Paul the apostle all descended from the tribe of Benjamin. Yaakov's death and burial. Genesis chapter 49, verse 29 to verse 14. When Yaakkov had finished charging his sons, He drew his legs up into the bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. Genesis chapter 49, verse 33. Before Yaakkov died, he took a pledge from his beloved son Yosef that he will not be buried in Egypt. So Yosef made the necessary preparations for the burial of his father. Yaakov's body was embalmed by Egyptian physicians. The Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. When the period of mourning was over, Yosef took permission from Pharaoh to go and bury his father in the land of Canaan. Pharaoh responded positively. A group consisting of all Pharaoh's servants, the elders of his household, leaders of the land of Egypt, entire household of Yosef, his brothers, and his father's household, went up to Canaan to bury Yaakkov. They were accompanied by chariots and horsemen. There they mourned for him for 7 days. So Yaakkov was buried in the cave in the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite by Mamre. Then they returned to the land of Egypt. Taking care of the dead is also important. Yosef, his brothers, their families, Egyptian servants, the officials gave their highest honor to Yaakkov. They dutifully buried Yaakkov according to his father's wishes. Yosef comforts his brothers. Genesis chapter 50, verse 15 to 26. After the death of their father, Joseph's brothers feared that Yosef will pay back in full for the suffering they caused him, and sent a message to Yosef asking for forgiveness and offering themselves as his slaves. But Yosef assured them that he does not hold any grudge against them by saying, "Am I in the place of God? You meant to do me harm, but God meant it for good, so that it would come about as it is today, with many people's lives being saved." Genesis chapter 50, verse 19 to 20. He also said, "So don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones." In this way he comforted them, speaking kindly to them. Genesis chapter 50, verse 21. Yosef and his father's household continued to live in Egypt. Yosef lived to see Ephraim's great-grandchildren and the children of Manasseh's son, Machir. Years later, Yosef said to his brothers, "I am dying, but God will surely remember you and bring you up out of this land to the land which he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakkov." Then Yosef took an oath from the sons of Israel, "God will surely remember you, and you are to carry my bones up from here." Genesis chapter 50, verse 24 and 25. When Yaakkov died, his sons carried and buried him in Canaan according to his will. It was a state-sponsored funeral with the full backing of the Pharaoh. But when Yosef died, Yaakov's family was not able to leave Egypt to bury him in Canaan, and he had to wait till they leave Egypt to bring Yosef's bones to Canaan. This indicates that situation has changed in Egypt. But Yosef assured his family that God will remember them and will take care of them. So Yosef died at the age of 110, and they embalmed him and put him in a coffin in Egypt. Genesis chapter 50, verses 26